In this video, we're going to look at the Conversation Builder. The Conversation Builder, as its name implies, is where you would build your chatbot's conversations. Before we dive in, it's worth noting that your chatbot comes with a set of pre-built conversations. We obviously have a wealth of experience in the chatbot space, and these pre-built conversations are what we believe to be the very bare bones of any chatbot. Obviously, you're completely free to delete them, but at the very least, I would recommend editing them, making sure that you make them your own. Here at the bottom of the list, I have a conversation that I just built to help me demonstrate the power of the builder and its different features. This conversation here is called Buying a Watering Can, and this conversation helps website visitors to my website buy a watering can. As you can see, it has 3 steps, and we're just going to edit it to have a quick look and dive right in. As I scroll through this conversation, you can see it looks exactly like what you would expect a conversation builder to look like. It has nodes, it has arrows pointing from one to the next, it has nice transitions, it has message bubbles. When this conversation is triggered at the very top, the chatbot sends one message. Which watering can would you like? Pink, blue, or green? As the user responds, the chatbot then moves to the next step and asks which size would you like? Small, medium, or large? Finally, when the user responds, the bot is available and ready to send the checkout link. Let's dive into some of the key aspects of this conversation to learn a little bit more. First, let's have a look at the trigger. Each conversation starts with a trigger. This trigger could be a word, an integration, an event, a postback, anything. Here, if I click on View Trigger and I click on this drop-down, I can see that this conversation starts when a message is sent to the bot that is equal to the word buy. Now, what I can do here is I can click on the first drop-down, and you can see all of the other events we can use to trigger a conversation. So obviously we can use a specific message, but what we could do as well is a message is sent, which would mean any message, or a subscriber is active, or a subscriber talks to the bot for the first time this month. Okay, that's great as well. A subscriber returns in the morning. We can do even NLP events, so an FAQ is triggered. We can do errors, which could be quite nice. So what would happen if an integration fails to return a response, for instance? We might want to send a conversation at that point. If there was a problem with the NLP, if the human fallback limit is reached, all that sort of stuff can be done. Now, if I stay on the message, which is just one out of all these events, I can also click on this drop-down and see all of the other category options here. So here we have a message is equal to buy, but what I could do as well is a message is an email address, or a message is a number, or a phone number, or true or false, or is matches regex, for instance. Is a number that's greater than, less than, contains number of words, returns a status code. So there's a whole bunch of available options here. So for now, I'm going to leave this as message equals buy. Now let's look at a message node. I'm just going to close this panel here and scroll down a little bit to see our very first message node. The very first one is the chatbot asking the user which type of watering can they would be interested in. If I click into this, we can dig further into the options available. I can obviously give the step a name, which evidently I forgot to do in this instance. What we can do then is set up transitions. Transitions are a way to tell the chatbot, okay, for this user to go from the step they're currently on to the next step, this is what we need them to do. In this very instance, the transition to go to the next step, which is which size would you like, to transition the user to this next step, all we need them to do is to send us a message. Now, this is obviously very simple, but if I click on this drop-down, you'll realize that the drop-down that we looked at in the trigger section of this video basically reappears. So now I can really add a level of complexity to these transitions, even at that granular level, allowing you to create really, really bespoke conversations. I can also create validation. I can do integrations from this page. I can do outbound emails, and I can obviously tweak the message content to write the copy, change the type of message I want to send. So it could be a standard message, could be an action message with some buttons. It could be a general message with an image. It could be a carousel message with a whole bunch of images that you can slide through. All those sorts of steps are available. Okay, now that we know all of this, we're going to have a bit of fun and try and add a new step. So what I can do here is, before we actually start asking people which watering can they would like, maybe what I'd like to do is capture the user's email address for future marketing or whatever. So what I can do to do this is I can click the plus button here and add a new step in between. So what I'm going to do is call this one ask for email address. Okay, so for this step to move to the next step, what we'll probably do is we'll want the message to be equal to an email address, because that's going to provide us some validation, which we're going to have a look at in a minute. And then I'm going to write the copy for that message. So before we start, what is your email address? Perfect. So now I can hit create. And now, as you can see, I have a little success message, and the step has been added in between the two steps that existed previously. So now when the conversation is triggered, someone says bye, the chatbot is going to say, okay, before we start, what is your email address? Now let's have a quick look inside the details of that specific step. So it has the name that we've given it, which is perfect. It has a transition to step 1, which can only happen if the user sends a message that is equal to an email address. We're not currently saving this message as anything, so this would be a variable, which we'll learn about in another video. It doesn't have any validation. So what we could probably do is we want to make sure that if the user does send a message that is not an email address, we'll probably want to give them some sort of warning saying, actually, be wary that you're not going to be able to move forward without actually sending us what we're looking for. So here what I've done is I've changed this validation to when any of the following conditions are met. If a message is sent that is not, as you can see it's highlighted, an email address, I want the bot to respond to this. So please enter a valid email address. Okay, I can save this. Perfect. So now we have the trigger. Someone says the word bye, which sends them to this very first message. This little thing on the right here, the little arrow here on the right, tells us that basically the user is going to be stuck in this validation loop until they actually send us an email address, which we can look at improving later on. If you'd like, you can do all sorts of different things with this. But once they actually do give an email address, as displayed here, when a message is an email, they'll actually go to the next step and start purchasing the product. And that's how you can use the Conversation Builder. That's it for the overview of the Conversation Builder. As you can see, it's very, very simple to use. We're going to move on to the next lesson, which is going to be all about FAQs.